Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lorraine Taylor. This is Do Brand You. It's all about you here. It's about you unleashing your potential in every season of life. And today is Friday Chat Day, and on Fridays I just to take you behind the scenes with what's going on with me during the week and share any motivation or inspiration or strategies that I'm using overcoming some of the challenges or problems that I face. And I share those with you. So today we're going to focus on this concept of when people ask you, what is your purpose? And I mean, that has become a question where, it does get asked, especially like for me and when I'm coaching people, what do you feel like your purpose is? What is that? What is it that you feel is your why? Why are you doing what you want to do? Or why would you want to do what you want to do? So in finding that core essence, I mean, that is really what our purpose is. But the problem with asking questions like, what is your purpose? And I have found this as I've asked people and people have asked me, that there's this expectation that we have to answer in a way to share something that is something really grand or life-changing or world-shifting. And, it makes us feel we often then just completely compare ourselves to other people, and we feel like what we're doing isn't really that important. And it just makes us feel like we're not doing enough, and really we get to the point where we just hate that question. But what if I told you, and I know you already know, that your purpose does not have to be changing the world? And I know you already know that, and I already know that, but I have to be reminded, and I was reminded again this week, that our small circle of influence that we have is enough. It's more than enough. And I got that from this the other day in the morning. I was doing my reflections, and I often pick up a book that I've read before. One of my favorite ones is Stephen Covey's last book that was finished by his daughter Cynthia, because he passed away before it was done. And it's called Live Life in Crescendo. Your most important work is always ahead of you. And in there, he writes that your challenge is not to change the world. It's just to change your world, your own circle of influence. And when I think back over the years of what my circle of influence is, it changes. Yes, sometimes I'm connecting with lots and lots of people. And sometimes it's just an immediate thing. I mean, when I became a mother, or when I was, spending time with, when my parents were unwell, we find ourselves in these situations, or when I was recovering from breast cancer, or when I get myself in these situations, I'm not really connecting with other people in these stages of my life. Not that many people, my children or my parents, or just recovering myself. And in those stages, you still have purpose. It's just that it's your circle of influence. And that circle of influence is where you exist. And it can be just recovering for yourself, because that's going to allow you to get better faster. That's what happened with me. It can be just you are in charge of just a couple of people, or you're only connecting with a couple of people. But the point is, again, that it's the circle of influence. Now, I always, in this channel, and it's just the way my brain works, is I always want to understand, well, what's the science behind this? What is it about how we're made up as humans that allow us, that kind of backs this up? So if we start with why you often feel like you're not doing enough, it's psychologically, humans are wired to compare themselves to others. It's part of our social nature. We can look back at in history over the different developments of the human, civilizations. And from an evolutionary perspective, keeping track of social hierarchies helped our ancestors survive. But in today's hyper-connected world, this comparison really makes us feel insignificant, because we're not just comparing to the world that we live in, but we're just comparing ourselves like to this massive group of people around the world that we connect to through social media, through news, through information. And this is where science gets hopeful, though. Studies show that even small actions like expressing gratitude or helping someone with a small task or just saying good morning or a smile activate the brain's reward system. Acts of service, whatever they may be, release oxytocin. Oxytocin is our bonding hormone, and it makes us feel more connected and fulfilled. So in essence, helping others helps us feel significant, no matter how small that act is. When I was at university, they had this experiment being shown on the campus that I was at. And I've also seen it on YouTube. You might have seen it as well. It's called the domino effect, and I love it. It really points out how small acts have big impact through the domino effect. So if you go on YouTube, you can find it. Just put in domino effect. There was a science once who demonstrated that a tiny little domino, a few centimeters high, could knock over a domino 1.5 times its size. So the little small domino falls over and knocks over another domino that's 1.5 times its size. Boom, 1.5 times its size, boom, and again and again. And if you keep scaling that up, the 29th domino can then have enough force to knock over the Empire State Building. One little domino, 30 more times connections, can knock over the entire Empire State Building. One small action can ripple outward, growing in momentum and impact over time. And when I remembered that, I thought this week about moments in my life where, for some reason, somebody smiled, said something, gave me a compliment, was grateful for what I did for them. Something showed in some way some connection of service, of gratitude towards me, and how that influenced me to then knock over other dominoes. Because we might not influence the world in our own little sphere, but we can influence the world by knocking over. I mean, I love this channel, and I love connecting with people on YouTube, and I love doing the interviews that I do. I've had a couple ones I've just dropped, so definitely look on that. That's the playlist In Conversation With. And I'm always inspired by people who are, they're sharing their stories, inspire me to then do other things. And we are inspired in that way. YouTube allows us to connect in that way. So we can come back to the whole concept of, well, who can make a difference then? Who is it in the world that can make a difference? Well, anybody can make a difference. You can make a difference. I can make a difference, a big difference. I can be a small little domino and knock over the Empire State Building, but through the act of connecting with other people, and one inspires the other. I was reading in the book that I shared about with Stephen Covey, and he talks about in that book the perfect candidate who can change the world has at least one of these characteristics. So I'm going to share those with you, and you think about it. What do you have? Any of these characteristics? One is time. Just a little bit of time. I know some of you come to this channel, some of the people that I coach, some of the people that I work with, they're transforming from having maybe a working life to wanting to have their own business, which is allowing them to kind of live their purpose, live more aligned with who they are. And there's this misconception that you have to go from working and a job to this full-time business so that you can, just, in the same amount of time, give the same amount of, value. That's not true. I mean, when we talk about doing brand you, we talk about living and unleashing your potential. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job and start another job in your purpose. It means to carve out a little time that you can do and live and do what you want and live by what is really true for you and how you can add value in the world. Just a little time. So that's one characteristic. Think about it. Do you have any? Or are you using? I bet you're already using some time wisely. Talent or skill? Listen, everyone has talents and skills. If you don't know that you have talents and skills, you know how children find out what talents and skills they have? They go play in the sandbox. They go play. And I always tell people, especially when I'm coaching, when they say, well, I don't really know. I don't know what to do. I said, well, go back to what children do and go and play. Go take a class. Go buy some art supplies. Go for an experience somewhere and try something. Just try. Everyone has talents and skills. So you have that characteristic. Desire or passion. I mean, what do you care about? It's got to be something that you care about. Or your passion, I know it is. But the thing is, you're already probably saying, yeah, I've got time. Yeah, I've got talents and skills. Yeah, I've got desire and passion. You only need a little, just that one little domino. It'll use those things to help to add value to others. Do you have a vision for what needs to be done or an interest in something? And another one is, do you have influence? I work with people that have been, they've done professionally very, very well. They're in their 40s, getting into their 50s. Sometimes they come to me as for coaching to transition into that new stage of their life, kind of a semi-retirement or going from the working world into having their own business, that kind of thing. But when I talk to these people that are in these situations, many of them are already set up in the sense that they have a reputation. People know them for something. They're respected in their circles. They have money behind them. I mean, you get to a stage in your life, if you've managed your money well, you do have money to use. And then you can mobilize your resources even in a small way. I mean, just last week in my community here in New Zealand, they have something, because it's December, a couple weeks before Christmas. They have this thing called Toot for Tucker. There's a lot of families around Christmas that find themselves, without a lot. And the community, for as long as I know it has organized Toot for Tucker. And so the fire engines get out and volunteers get out and they drive their trucks and the fire engines drive around the communities around here and people go out in the street and give a couple of bags. I went to the shop, did my grocery shopping, and I filled up 2 extra bags and I gave that away. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But that might put a smile on somebody's face. That might just be that little domino that's going to knock over the next one. It's all worth it. And I think one of the things that I would love, that I need to do more of, and I'd love for you to do more of as well, is to recognize that these small things that you do are so important. They are important. Celebrate them. I celebrate the opportunity that I have to help with Toot for Tucker, that I can actually give. And there's other people out there that are organizing the rest of getting it all together and getting it to the right people. Again, I'm going to go back. I always ask these questions like, well, why does serving other people improve our life? I mean, does it really? Does it really help me with my life to to find ways to serve other people, to add value to them. The thing is, and here's the key, when you serve others, you're not just helping them, but you're helping yourself. Research shows that giving to others increases happiness, reduces stress, and boosts your physical health. One study found that volunteering improves life satisfaction and lowers symptoms of depression. Why? Because serving others aligns with our authentic human nature. It's what makes us human. Humans are hardwired for connection. And when we act in ways that strengthen relationships, even small ones, we reinforce our sense of belonging and purpose. Sometimes we don't even know that what we do inspires others. I was watching this elderly couple, and I was just watching how the wife, it looked to me like she might have just had a stroke or something, and so she had a walker. And I saw them getting out of the car, and he went and got her walker, and he went and put it there. He didn't he enabled her to get out of the car, in a sense, to have the walker. He walked slower, and he just gave her space and time, and just didn't make her feel like, she was a bother or burden or anything. And I was at a coffee shop, and they went in and they came in and had their coffee like they always do. And that really touched my heart. That really inspired me. And it was just because I was sitting there having my coffee, having a chat with my husband on the weekend like we always do. And I watched this whole scene play out, and it inspired me. Now I'm sharing it with you. So those are the things. So how do you find, we'll get back to this question, how do you find your purpose? Because if we have a purpose, if we have a reason for why we live, if we have a reason that we want to, our purpose is tied to our essence of who we are and how we want to add value to people around us. So how can you find that purpose in a small circle of influence? You just do it by remembering you're not going to change. You can change the world, but it might be the 30th domino that knocks down. Your responsibility is only your small sphere of influence, and it might just be yourself if you're in recovery mode. It might just be one or two people that you're caregiving for. It might be a large number of people. But ask yourself these questions. What are you good at? Always think about those skills that you've gained from things that you've done. What have you learned? What can you share with other people? Who do you see regularly? Who are you in contact with? Not just from a business point of view if you're a business person, but who do you actually come in contact with? What needs do you notice? I always like this. What is the pain point? Where are the pain points showing up? So I love this quote that was also in the book, and it was, make a difference about something other than yourself. And when we serve others, we connect with something bigger than ourselves, even if it's just in a small, everyday way. And that's where magic happens. And that's where life gets exciting. So this week, I want to challenge you to think small. What's one act of kindness not only that you can do, but you probably already do it anyway, but I want you to notice it. I want you to reflect on it, and I want you to appreciate that the act of kindness that you do is actually a domino knocking over another domino. So it's not about changing the world. It's about changing your world one small act at a time. So thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to hear your thoughts about any acts of kindness that you did this week, or whenever you listen to this video. What's one way you've served someone recently? I love stories where it's not big things, it's the small things. Now, I really appreciate that some of you are really hitting that subscribe button. I appreciate that a lot. As you know, YouTube works with the algorithm of the subscribe, so that really helps. It helps when you listen to the videos, helps if you share them. And also just down below in the comments, there's a link for my newsletter. Really encourage you to get that. It helps us to stay connected, helps me to offer you special deals and discounts for things coming up. The one I have coming out in this week will have an option for you to join us in the Do community. So do subscribe to that as well. Have a great week and weekend if it is your weekend. If you're listening to this on a Friday like when it was published, but you might be listening to it some other time. So whenever you're listening, have a great week ahead. I'll see you next time.